Okay, this is Chapman University. This is the stadium. And this is the admissions building. There's a Jamba Juice coffee place. And I'm looking for the admissions office.
Huh? Do you want?
There's a platter of buffet out there for students are able to come. There's performances by some of the dance teams, just kind of a way to ease some of the stress that comes with finals. But also in our student union, we have 3 of our main eateries here on campus. We have World of Wings, Jamba Juice, and Einstein bagels, all of which are open during the week. We also have in the corner a student desk where you're able to rent out iPods, iPads, video game. I think there's an Xbox console. You can bring chargers. Very convenient because the dorms are not far away, but in the library, we've got a charger and stuff. To my right is our. We also have our academic advisor here at the Development Center. And while I'd love to stop at each one, it'd take a little too much time. So I'm just going to stop at this guy. We call him the biggest and baddest bust on our campus, Albert Schweitzer. The busts kind of represent figures that Chapman considers influential in how they run the school, how they approach different academic programs. But Albert Schweitzer is the one that we do stop and talk about because he's what we consider here at Chapman, excuse me, a professional scholar in that he was a doctor, so a man of medicine and science. However, when he was studying, the way he approached his academics was he studied language, he studied history, he studied a couple years ago, was that I would be forced to take some sort of science classes that I would have absolutely no interest in. I found out after my sophomore year in high school, chemistry was never going to be my strong point. Closest I'd ever come to something in chemistry was, any of you watched the show Breaking Bad? So that was kind of my limit. But when I came to Chapman, I was able to work with one of my academic advisors, and they were like, well, so if you're not exactly a science person, you should check out this class, which ended up being environmental science, Intro to Environmental Science, which was a class that combined 50% of the actual science different things going on, but then also the 50% that I really enjoyed was all the policy of environmental science. We were able to go outside, do hands-on experiments, and it wasn't just us like sitting in a lab kind of being bored by something I didn't have any real interest in as a journalism student. I was able to get those 3 credits out of the way and actually be interested in something where now I've taken additional environmental science classes. My roommate liked science even less, and so he took a food science class where they essentially were cooking and understanding the science behind culinary arts. But if you were born with a brain that was wired for science, of course you can take them. It's just basically you won't come here and have some horror story where the first semester of your freshman year you're only taking intro classes that really have no impact on your major. From day one you will be taking classes towards your major, towards getting that degree at the end and getting that experience. So do you guys have any questions? Things about the library you just go online, you can register, log in for a study room that you can block up to 3 hours of the day, and they're really, really great for group projects. Essentially what it is you get a room to yourself that has a large whiteboard, has a computer with a projector, a big table with chairs, so especially for some of your maybe intro classes where they have a lot of group projects, some PowerPoints or research paper project that you have to do, they're great for that. Also, there are a couple film students in here that has really great surround sound projector screens, so it's really, in some of your intro to visual storytelling, some of your classes, a lot of students will go and screen some of their initial projects in there. Really cool, free. Our class sizes really are. Our average class size is 24 students per class, but for me as a English student, my class are capped at 19, which is really, really nice. You have a very intimate personal relationship with your professor. Our student to faculty ratio is 14 to 1. You're never going to be treated as a number. You're never actually taught by a TA. The only time you would be instructed by a TA is say your class met, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. A lot of times what the TAs will do is then on Tuesdays, Thursdays, they'll hold optional, additional, learning lessons. A lot of time in those study rooms, in the library. Can't talk over that. Just to make it easier, if you guys have any, needs, quiz prep, if you have a paper you want to go over, they're just kind of an additional resource. But on that note, all of our full-time faculty are required to have 6 office hours a week. And the office hours are essentially just free time that they have to meet with students, and that's the only thing that they're doing during that time. So it's a great way if you want to, put a face to the name, get to know your teacher, just so that they know who you are, they know how you learn, so that they can kind of, manage your needs, especially if you're, for me, a lot of my classes are English classes, so there's a lot of writing portions, so it's really good if the professor knows you, knows how you work, so that they can give you feedback to actually help. Now right here behind me is our Irvine Lecture Hall. That's actually the largest classroom that we do have here on campus. It seats 188 students, but you'll never ever be in a class that large. The largest class I actually ever had was, I think it was 35 students, and it was one of my intro Spanish classes. So really, really nice how small they keep the semester. 4 months for the spring semester, and then 1 month in the month of January. And it's actually about a 3.5 week period that's called interterm. So in that month of January, it's an optional class that's an optional course that is included in your tuition, so it's essentially free. And what it is that you can take up to 4 units. Here at Chapman, basically one class equals about 3 credits or units. So during that period, you can take up to 1 class. And since it's during, it's a much more condensed 3.5 week period, you're going to meet 3 to 4 times a week for 1 class, and you meet 3 hours a day. So most of the time, they'll meet from like 9 to 12 or 12 to 3, and then you have the rest of the day to do your homework, but then also just relax. So at the end of those 3.5 weeks, you're done with a class that would normally take you an entire semester. And since we do offer it every year, if you were to take advantage of it all 4 years, you essentially have an extra semester under your belt. What that does is it gives you a lot more flexibility to be unsure of coming into school with a major. They say our 3rd most popular major is undeclared. So you can absolutely come in here, maybe you want to study psychology, but then you realize you're more interested in econ or public relations and advertising. And because you have those 15 kind of additional credits, you're able to try new classes. What interterm also does is it gives you a chance, for me what I used it as, a chance to get some of my GEs out of the way. So you're able to, your freshman year, take a class, and then you can be done with your language requirement or get done with your, your math requirement. My roommate also chose to take, in his 2 years so far, tennis and bowling. So you can really make interterm kind of what you want it to be. If you're, if you need a rest, then you can take tennis. But if you actually want to keep taking classes towards, graduating in 4 years, you can. The only downside that some people dislike about it is that it cuts your winter break to about 2.5 weeks. However, if you don't do it, your break's 6 weeks, and it is quite long. I'm going to talk about it a little later on, but also during interterm, you're able to travel or study kind of abroad during that 3.5 week period. So that's another popular thing. Guest speakers, or they'll make a day out of it, and instead of having your class on Tuesday, you'll just come here as speaker, which is really cool. Probably though, the thing that draws more students is when Comedians come, when more interesting, controversial people come. We had Pablo Francisco, Daniel Tosh of Tosh.0, or is it Tosh.20 now? I don't know what it is. Also, musical guests will come here, except most of those musical guests will play in our basketball gym. They always say that it's going to be here, and then the tickets eventually sell out, so they move it. So we've had LMFAO, 303, Best Coast was here last year. So those are the ones that really draw most of the crowds. But probably the biggest thing that goes on here is called American Celebration. It takes place over a weekend in November, and what it is it's essentially an entirely student-run, student-produced show, mini Broadway show. It's absolutely stunning, it's gorgeous, and it takes place in here, like I said, on 2 nights, on a Friday and a Saturday. And one of the things is these seats on the Friday night will go for about $50. So if you string together some ESI paychecks, you can get that. The second night, the cheapest you'll find these is about $1,300 for a seat. Yeah, so you could do a lot of ESIs and you probably still wouldn't get it. The reason for that is because it's one of our biggest fundraising events, weekends of the entire year. Chapman goes all out with it on the Memorial Lawn, which we'll walk out onto in a second. They bring out a giant white tent. They have chandeliers, ice sculptures, and there's a gala afterwards on Saturday night where the student performers interact with some of the trustees, some of the people who come on that Saturday night just to interact. There's like a ball. Last year we raised $2.2 million on that weekend, and the last 3 years it's been the consistent $2.2 million. The really cool thing about that is that all of that money goes back to your student aid. Here at Chapman we offer 3 types of student aid. You have your merit-based aid. If you're not familiar with like the application for merit-based aid, you're going to apply using the Common App. Well, that's just that's the application for Chapman. There's a Common App, and then there's the Chapman Supplement. And with the merit-based aid, you don't do anything additionally. You're going to apply with the same application you would, and then it's going to be reviewed by our admission team. If you qualify for merit-based aid, you will receive a certain amount of money for a year. And so as a freshman, an incoming freshman, you'd receive it and you'd say, I got the presidential scholarship. And that's for all 4 years. The way that they kind of make sure you're staying on track is there's a minimum GPA you're going to have to require to maintain that scholarship. And so as your money increases, obviously your GPA, the minimum that you have to maintain, increases as well. If during a semester you dip below the required GPA, you're going to be put on like a probationary period. And then if something really happened and you dipped again, you didn't get it up, you could lose your scholarship. That doesn't happen a lot because the university really tries to pair you with advisors, counselors to make sure that if you are struggling, you can maintain and keep that GPA, get it back up so that you can get the money. The second type of aid we have is talent-based aid. A lot of students think that's kind of only for theater, music, art majors, but it's not. Those are very prominent programs where talent-based aid takes place just because it's easier to envision, having a cello audition than writing a paper. But for some of my fellow journalism students, one of my friends actually was able to write a paper and received a $5,000 journalism scholarship. That qualifies as a talent-based scholarship. There's the same in science and math, psychology. It's just that a lot of times the theater, the more art gets, it's easier to envision someone up there singing than writing a paper. And then our third is our federal based financial aid. That has nothing to do through the university. If you guys aren't already familiar with FAFSA, you will definitely become so, and then that's just through the government, and then you receive funding that also, what we have here, it's called stacking. No matter how many different scholarships you get, if you get a scholarship from an outside source, which I definitely recommend looking into, you can just stack them all, and Chapman accepts them all kinds, like a smorgasbord of scholarships. Once again, I'm coming at you with a lot of info. If you guys have any questions, want to just take a deep breath, or enjoying the AC?
I didn't hear when we were walking here what you were saying. I was at the back end. So about working?
So Wilkinson Hall is home to our Economic Science Institute. And what I was just talking about is how, as a student, you can take part in the experiments through the ESI program that are put on by economics students and the professors. And so the incentive for students to take part in those is you get paid just $7 for showing up, and then you can make anywhere from $20 to $85. The experiments take place 30 minutes to, I think the longest is 2 hours. You're just like at a computer doing different computer computations and games. That's all I was talking about. Yes, it's the same building. I'll take the place. No Denzel Washington fans. Well, this was actually in the final scene of the movie Crimson Tide with Denzel Washington. Kind of one of the more fun part of the tour. Since we are so close to Hollywood and LA, and since we are a very, very beautiful campus, we're featured a lot in different movies. The movie Accepted was filmed here. A different car commercial that have been filmed here. Parks and Recreations was here at the end of the year filming. Right over here, a lot of students got to meet some of the actors and directors of the show. One of the funnier ones that a lot of students like is, I believe, Big Mama's House was filmed somewhere on this campus. Or Big Mama's House 3. One of the, I think it's are there 4 movies in that franchise? I'm not sure. They kind of like to say here at Chapman, during your 4 years, at some point you'll be featured in a short movie, a documentary, a full length, or just a small TV series. Whether that's from the students at Dodge or from Hollywood, it's kind of the luck of the draw. But our film program is extremely competitive. It is very prominent on campus. There's always students shooting small movies. There's always opportunity to be kind of filmed if you want to get on the screen. But like I said, this is Memorial Lawn. This actually just got renovated, just got done, so it's very nice. They rolled out all new grass. During the year when we are having classes, there's always going to be students out here tanning, playing frisbee, relaxing in between classes. It's kind of our equivalent of a small quad. This right here, Doty Hall, is actually our newest building here on campus. Doty Hall started construction a year ago in August, so August of 2012. It opened in January of 2013. It was built extremely quickly. It's absolutely beautiful inside. I had a class in there. One of the things that Chapman likes, and what I was telling you before, was about how small our classes are. And so to accommodate the growing number of applicants we're accepting in our freshman class, they're continuing to build new buildings. One of the kind of funnier, quirkier things about Doty Hall is that a couple years back there was a car commercial that was filmed here on Chapman. And in it, there used to be nothing there. So in it, they put a computer-generated building to mirror Roosevelt Hall. And our president saw the commercial and said, "Hey, I like that." And so now there's a new building. Another thing, in the movie Accepted, there were, I guess the producers put in these little flagpoles. Once again, our president saw the movie, said, "I like the flagpoles." And so they're now a permanent part of our campus. So Doty Hall houses our communication studies. Smith Hall actually used to house our psychology department, but our psychology department continued to grow, so they moved to Kareem Hall, which is just past the Dodge College. So it's about 3 blocks off our main campus. Reed Hall houses our integrated educational studies as well as our athletic training major here on campus. Athletic training is another one of the more competitive prominent programs here on campus. And then Roosevelt Hall houses our social sciences. All of these academic buildings, like I said about Hashing, are going to be split with professor offices as well as classrooms. So it's very nice. You'll be taking a class, say in Roosevelt Hall, and then afterwards you can go straight to another professor's office hours without having to trek across campus. It's a very small campus, so it's not that big of a deal, but it's still nice. But we film students, thankful that you now have the Dodge College of Arts. DeMille Hall kind of now houses a lot of our languages. We take a lot of your language classes here. But probably the most notable thing is the Center for Academic Success. The Center for Academic Success is our tutoring service here at Chapman. We can keep walking. It's a really great program that Chapman offers because it's totally free for students. So any time of the year, just fill out some information about who you are, what level of class you need help in, how much help you need. If you need more, you can get more. The really cool thing about it, though, is that while it's free to students, if you have a 3.0 GPA or get an A in a certain class, you get asked to apply to become a tutor. And so it's an on-campus job that a lot of students take advantage of, because then they're pairing a student who needs help with a student who's very proficient in a language or in science. So, you'll even have a case where someone is tutoring in, let's say, a language, tutoring in French, and then getting tutored in her science class or his or her science class. Definitely a program that a lot of students take advantage of because it is so easy to get that additional help. To my left is the Atala Piazza. You can see that's our library. So right in front of us is the Atala Piazza. It used to be covered to exhaust here, dock here, research here. During each semester, our friends would put on a pasta party where he's out there sitting with a giant bowl of pasta giving out to students. During the Christmas break, or the Christmas season, they had a winter fest where they shot like fake snow off all these buildings, and they had fireworks coming off the library. It was crazy. But it was a great time and kind of a great example of what our president envisioned the Atala Piazza being, just a space for faculty and students to mingle. It's also totally okay to kick your shoes off and go run in the fountain. I'll talk a little bit about that later. Behind it, we have Deputy Hall, which is the home of our Arjo School of Business and Economics. I know there are a couple people interested in business or economics. Actually, in 2009, our economics program was recognized as one of the top 20 economic institutes in the country. In 2012, it was once again recognized with that same honor. It's a very, very strong program here on campus. A lot of students are studying business, and to accommodate all the students that are, they have actually their own academic advising center for the business school, just because it is such a prominent program here on campus. However, there's also classes that take place in Beckman Hall, not through the business school. So I've taken multiple classes in there. It's one of my favorite things to do simply because of how kind of ridiculous some of the rooms are. They're what they call smart rooms. And I don't exactly know how they get this criteria, but the way that they say it is that the walls are painted in a certain shade of white that they say has been scientifically proven to increase students' attentiveness. And the desks are made in such a way that if you're long-legged, you cannot lean back and kind of recline. The best part is that they are supposedly set at a temperature that's not so cold where you need like a jacket, but too cold for you to fall asleep. Some people obviously debunk that and sleep through their classes, but the idea is when you're there to learn. We're now going into our Fish Interfaith Center. A question we get a lot is Chapman University religiously affiliated? And while we were founded by the Disciples of Christ, we are no longer directly affiliated with any individual religion. However, obviously, if you want to continue practicing your religion, you can do that. There's a lot of clubs and organizations for that. But this is probably my favorite building on campus. It's our Fish Interfaith Center. You'll notice there are no religious symbols. It's a place where you can go just for peace. It's incredibly relaxing. There is a small chapel that holds weekly services. However, the main thought of the Fish Interfaith Center is just to provide an area where students of any background can come and feel at peace. So we'll just be able to walk in. I won't really talk because you guys can you'll see how amazing the building is. We'll just walk through the building. And those are all open to faculty and students to come. They're great, they're free. There'll also just be different events that go on in here through different organizations. You're able to just come in here anytime you want. You can come in here with some books. A lot of students will kind of escape the library to come here during finals just because it's so peaceful and relaxing. But it is just a really great building that people do take advantage of. We'll continue going. All right, so into that group. Right to the black windows is a basketball question we get a lot is about our athletics here at Chapman because we are a Division III school. What that means is that Division III, you cannot offer athletic scholarships. So that kind of changes the entire athletic scene. We used to be a Division II school who could offer athletic scholarships, but our president, Jim Doty, decided that he wanted our campus to be made up of student athletes instead of separated by students and athletes. What it essentially does is it provides a lot more opportunities for a lot more students to play sports. We have 27 varsity 27 varsity sports, 19 of which are Division III recognized by the Division III NCAA. Those other 8 are club sports. However, that doesn't mean that at the same level. A lot of our club sports are some of the most competitive in the country. Our men's lacrosse club team is one of the top 3 ranked. Our women's varsity team, which actually just switched to a Division III sport this year, won the national championship for club lacrosse about 2 or 3 years ago. So they're extremely competitive, but the thing is, it is Division III school, so if you really want to play a sport and you're good at it, you do have the opportunity to try out, to walk on. But probably my favorite thing for someone who doesn't play sports but who played sports in high school is how Chapman makes all of the facilities used by the same teams accessible to students. So the basketball stadium, while during the winter it was used by the basketball and volleyball team, I was able to play intramural basketball Mondays and Tuesday nights. The football stadium on Wednesday nights, they had intramural soccer, ultimate frisbee. There's always pickup water polo going on. You'll see our aquatic center is gorgeous. You can go swim laps. There's a little jacuzzi. If you want some jacuzziing after dinner or something, that's totally okay. All of our facilities are open every day for specific hours that you can find online that don't really change. Also, underneath the basketball gym is our main athletic fitness center that's open to students. It's actually getting renovated this summer, which has been long overdue, but that's something that's great for now, prospective students to be able to have a really nice gym, not the one that we had before. Also, there's a separate athletics gym for athletes, just so that you're not working out with the entire football team right behind you, which is very nice. So do you guys have any questions about athletics? All right, we'll keep moving then. Always packed. So it really just depends how well the team is doing. Our water polo games are fun. The swim and dive teams will get a lot of people because it's, a lot of times on like a Saturday morning at 11, students are just like, well, I'll go see someone jump off a 50-foot dive board. But to my right, the thing that everyone's thinking about is, what is that big hole? And it isn't just our giant sandbox. That's actually the future site of our new Center for Music and Arts. Chapman recently got a $32 million anonymous donation, and they matched that. So this is going to be a $64 million state-of-the-art music and arts program. So a lot of the programs that I was talking about when we were in our creative kind of corner of the campus, so the Guggenheim Gallery, the theater where students are going to study dance, music, arts, all of that. That is filled with water and the ball rotates. When I came as a freshman, you were totally allowed to swim in every single fountain. That was something that a lot of Chapman students kind of had a bucket list, swim in all 6 or 7 fountains. Students still have that same bucket list. I think I've gotten 3 or 4 of them, but if public safety is driving by, you can either submerge yourself or you're probably going to have to leave. They won't get really upset. It was just, I guess, when I came in as a freshman, some of the lights and fixtures started getting broken, so we could no longer dip in the fountains. The students still will. But what all those flags represent is a student who has studied from Chapman in one of those locations, or an international student studying at Chapman from one of those locations. One of the really cool things that Chapman does is they really, really want studying abroad to be part of your college experience. We offer 3 types of study abroad. Our first is kind of the most traditional, what you expect, is your semester abroad. So how that works is a year in advance, you're going to go in for a study abroad kind of meeting, and they show you all the places you can apply to, which are hundreds of places all across the world. How it works then is you see, okay, for me, for my example, I'm going to actually study in the Czech Republic, in Prague next spring. So So how I was able to do that is I was able to look up journalism, broadcast journalism, and then Chapman ranks the top universities, international universities to study at. And so Anglo-American in Prague is one of the top for broadcast journalism. So then you go through a process of applying from the university. You apply through Chapman University to study abroad. The positive, what that does for you is that it means that you pay the exact same amount of tuition because you're paying through Chapman. For me, I'm on scholarship here. My scholarship is still going to stand in 2014 when I'm studying in Prague. It's incredible, so you don't have to go through any additional applications. So then the other really great thing is that since Chapman has made all of these connections with the international universities, all of your credits are still going to apply. So it's not like you kind of maybe have to sacrifice a semester. I'm still going to be able to take 15 credits, still going to stay on track to graduate in 4 years because your program evaluation, which is something you get as a freshman, and it breaks down every credit you need in every class. It'll tell you, for me as a journalism student, all of the upper division classes I need. And so I'm able to, from day one, I was able to plan out with my counselor, I'm going to study abroad the spring of my junior year. Let's make that happen so that all my credits are still going to work. I'm totally on track to graduate in 4 years, which is great about studying abroad. The second option you can do is a little different, but still just as incredible. It's called Semester at Sea. If you guys haven't heard of it, it is essentially a semester-long cruise ship where you take classes on the cruise boat during the week, and then you're going to stop at like 11 to 12 different countries during that time, and for, I think, 2 to 3 days, you stop at the different ports, and you don't take classes during those days, you just explore. So it's crazy. A lot of people here at Chapman do it and absolutely love it. The one downside of Semester at Sea is that it's not through the Chapman University. It's through Semester at Sea program. Sorry, didn't give it too many tours. And through that, you have to, your scholarships don't apply. However, what Semester at Sea does to make it still economically feasible is that they offer different types of scholarships. You can essentially study abroad at Semester at Sea. You could for free. You got a full ride scholarship. They're very easy to apply to, and they make it, once again, they make it the first type of study abroad, which I was referencing way long ago on the beginning of this long course, was that you can study abroad during the interterm period, which a lot of students will do if for some reason they can't, leave a job or leave a sports team for that entire semester. So a lot of the time during the interterm period, one of my best friends and my roommate is film student, creative producing. And so he loves films, he lives films. And so what he was able to do during this year was he took a class all about film history, current films, and then they went to the Sundance Film Festival for a week and a half. All the apartments was all set up through Chapman. They were able to go see 15 of the new movies at Sundance, meet with directors, meet with actors, and just have an unbelievable experience that you would not be able to get if it weren't through Chapman, through the connections. Another student I know actually took a Darwin class. They went down to the Galapagos and retraced Charles Darwin's footsteps. So really cool, great things that you can do if for some reason you aren't able to study abroad for a whole semester. On campus, in the on-campus dorms, it is guaranteed for all freshmen. After your freshman year, you can still apply to live on campus, and there are plenty of students who are upperclassmen who do. However, Chapman is continually growing, and they want to reserve the space for freshmen so that they can continue to accept and grow. So what that means is that essentially after your freshman year, they would like for you to be able to move off campus. And so how they do that is they've set up, through the Housing and Residence Life Department, they've set up an off-campus